This episode of the podcast is being recorded on Wednesday, July 17th, 2019.
Okay, on both sides. Gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I want to caution you right now to keep this fight clean at all times, protect yourself at all times, and what I say you must obey. Good luck for the Swate. Touch him up.
Damn, I love that intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Have Fun on the Indies. I'm your host, Abe, and I feel like a freaking $1,000,000 right now. Catch us on Twitter, catch us on Instagram, catch us on Facebook. All you have to do is use the handle @HaveFunOTI. That's @HaveFunOTI. There, you'll find the links to all of our podcast hosts from Vimeo to YouTube, to SoundCloud. So get to clicking, ladies and gentlemen. Get to clicking, get to liking, get to not liking, get to swiping right, get to swiping left. Do it all and help out Have Fun on the Indies, because we're broke, son. And now that we're done begging for money, ladies and gentlemen, take my hand. Take my hand and step into the world of freaks. The freaky world of professional wrestling. Because that's the first thing we're going to talk about today, amongst many other things from MMA to boxing as well. But we have to start off with professional wrestling, don't we? And I was going to start it off hot. I was going to start it off super hot because my brain was about to explode after my friend showed me GCW Backyard Wrestling Show. And you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. Game Changer Wrestling, who's had a plethora of real wrestlers through their ranks, decided to do a Game Changer Wrestling Backyard Wrestling Show. And that's all I'm saying about this topic right now, because it's just a little tease of what's coming up next week. Because next week, we will be reviewing GCW Backyard Wrestling. Just putting it out there. You might want to tune in on that one. But for right now, we'll still start it hot. At least it was hot between Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay. And I don't mean Kenny Omega Ibushi hot. I mean, these guys started going at each other. And what better place to do it than on Twitter, right? So Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay were in a Twitter beef. Interesting times. I mean, what a wonderful time to be a fan of professional wrestling. You know things are red hot when you have some of the top professional wrestlers in the world who aren't signed with the WWE say something on Twitter and WWE main eventers respond. The most recent Monday Night War beef, Twitter war, is between Will Ospreay and Seth Rollins. Now, WWE guys and all these AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling guys have gotten into it before about who has better wrestling and who has the better wrestling show. It's natural. These guys are super competitive. It's going to happen. So, during WWE Stomping Grounds, WWE Universal Champion, or was Universal Champion till Brock Lesnar came and took everything, decided to praise the show he was on with this tweet. And this is during Stomping Grounds a month back. I don't know. There's so many goddamn wrestling shows sometimes, and fights, and everything else in between. But here's what Seth Rollins had to say, and I quote, "Doubling down, best pro wrestling on the planet. See that cruiserweight triple threat? And that's just one night, one match amongst the many. Find anyone else alive who does what I do, as well as I do it, as often as I do it. You can't." And I quote. Now, that's a great tweet. It shows the pride he has in himself. It shows the pride he has in the company. And at the time, once again, when he was champion, it shows him doing what the champion, the main champion of a company should do. And that's stand behind his company and stand behind himself and stand behind the people who brought him to the dance. So, why would Seth Rollins put out a tweet like this in the first place? Why, you ask? I don't know. Maybe because he's a competitor? Because him being one of the main champions, if not the main champion in WWE at the time, carries a certain type of responsibility, I would assume. Like, I don't know, probably defending the company when others talk smack about the company he proudly represents. And quite frankly, the company that he probably wished he worked for as a kid. Guarantee you Seth Rollins grew up watching WWE. Just like most of the wrestlers in all of these companies, from AEW to New Japan to fucking GCW and their backyard shit to fucking Ring of Honor. They all watched WWE and wished they could someday be in it. It might not be everybody. I'm not sure if fucking Kenta Kobashi watched WWE and decided to be a professional wrestler. You know? I'm not sure if even Kenta watched WWE as a kid and wanted to become a professional wrestler because of WWE. But I promise you, at least 90% of the wrestlers in the business and the wrestlers that are trying, and the students who are trying to be wrestlers in this business watched WWE growing up. And they all wanted to main event WrestleMania. I guarantee it. Well, anyways, back to this whole thing. Now, at the time, he was a champion. So if you're the main champion in WWE, you are technically considered the best wrestler in the world. Arguably. And real quick, before all the smarks come out, real quick, people forget that Seth Rollins was in this whole fucking Strong Style Evolved world, main eventing the biggest wrestling shows outside of WWE at the time, way before all this Strong Style Evolved stuff got popular. Did everybody forget Seth Rollins pretty much carrying Ring of Honor the same way Shawn Michaels carried the WWE when they were at its lowest? And then, of course, you're going to have people come out and say, well, if Seth Rollins was so good, then why was Ring of Honor doing so bad at that time? You fucking idiot. You want to know why? Because the wrestling business goes in cycles. And when the WWE isn't doing well, mostly everything underneath, which means the independents, don't do well either. Wrestling goes in a circle. It becomes super popular, then it becomes warm, then lukewarm, then nobody watches it, and then it resurges again. You're telling me the WWE was doing shit numbers in the mid-90s because of Shawn Michaels? No. Shawn Michaels helped the WWE through that crazy fucking time, the same way Seth Rollins helped Ring of Honor through their crazy fucking time. And how did he do it? By doing all these crazy matches that are now all of a sudden popular. So, is he one of the best in the world? Hell, he might be. I'm not even a giant Seth Rollins fan. However, I recognize the skill. I recognize the fact that he can wrestle like anybody in Japan, and I recognize the fact that he can wrestle the hardest wrestling style to wrestle for in all of professional wrestling, the WWE style. So, of course, Seth Rollins is going to fire back when he starts feeling the heat from other companies who are saying WWE isn't good, which in turn is saying Rollins isn't good since he's the flag bearer. So after that tweet from Seth Rollins about who can do it like he can, someone chimed in. Someone who is getting name recognition all of a sudden. Well, he has been for the past couple years, but now he's really blowing up. Will Ospreay. So after Seth Rollins says, find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it as often as I do it, Will Ospreay tweeted and said, and I quote, I'm alive. And I quote. Pretty much telling Seth Rollins, hey buddy, you know all those things that people say I can't do? I'm doing them all the fucking time. So Seth Rollins naturally responds And this one kind of hurts. This one's kind of tough. It says, and I quote, "Aw, I'm sorry, little guy. We already have a better version of you here, and he just won his first U.S. title tonight. Keep working hard, though, buddy." And of course, he was talking about Ricochet. So he pretty much told Ospreay, "You're the cheap knockoff version of Ricochet. Stay in this giant indie you like to call New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can't do it like me." So Will Ospreay responds. And this one hurts, because this one punches the competitive side of a man. So here's Will Ospreay, and I quote, "Fact of the day, Will Ospreay wrestled more matches in 2019 than Seth Rollins. Catch up, little guy." Boom. Catch up, little guy. Will Ospreay's putting in work. And I don't know how it is these days, but I know that when I was wrestling back in the day, and, for a cup of coffee or whatever that I had in the wrestling business, people took pride in the fact that they can just go, that they can go all night long, and that they can go all night long, multiple nights. And, Rollins and Ospreay do come from that era. They probably grew up watching that era, and they do have that mentality. So to me, that one pretty much just killed the whole thing. But of course, Seth Rollins tries to counter, and he makes a good point, but at the same time, he kind of fucking shoots himself in the foot. This is Seth Rollins, and I quote, "I mean, if you want to talk numbers, we can compare bank accounts too. P.S. That's counting a month off with a broken back. Thumbs up, buddy." And that's where it gets weird, because Seth Rollins bringing up money is a tad unfair. Is New Japan Pro Wrestling rich? Of course they are. Are they paying their workers as much as WWE is paying their workers? Probably not. Is Will Ospreay getting paid as much as, say, a mid-card guy in WWE? Maybe. But you just don't bring up numbers. We all know Seth Rollins works for the biggest professional wrestling company in the world, which means you're going to get paid the most. It is what it is. But the whole broken back thing, I mean, goddamn, apparently it didn't faze him one fucking bit, since he's still out there curb stomping people, jumping off the ropes. He hasn't slowed down. So what this comes down to is these two guys, in my opinion, are both equally as good, and they're just being competitive, and they're starting to talk shit. Because one company is trying to outdo the other, and quite frankly, right now, WWE is having these great competitors in AEW and New Japan nipping at their heels. And they're getting a little nervous, and they're maybe having flashbacks to fucking WCW being atop the ratings for a year or more. And they're doing what WWE does. That's exactly what they're doing. They're being competitive. And hell, even Ospreay talked to ESPN's Mark Riamondi and pretty much said it was friendly competition and there was no hard feelings. It's just wrestlers having a friendly competition of words, I suppose. But we all know how this is going to go. WWE is going to turn up the heat, and they're going to try to be better than they are already. New Japan's going to turn up the heat, and these friendly competitions are going to get red hot. And it only benefits us. It benefits us. It benefits the wrestling industry, and it's going to make everybody step up their game. Let's hope the fucking fans follow suit and they step up their game from being spoiled fucking brats. Did I tell you guys that I love you? I love professional wrestling fans. They're the best. They're not spoiled at all. They're not entitled at all. They don't smell funny. Anyways, if we want to keep going on this friendly competition, Kenny Omega decided to get into this friendly competition, but instead went straight at WWE, not just a particular wrestler. So one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, Kenny Omega, got pissed off because AEW Fight for the Fallen, which has already happened, had a bunch of stuff going on before the show actually occurred. So they had this big announcement for AEW Fight for the Fallen. And I don't know if it was the same. Yep. So I'm on this article. Here, let me backtrack here, folks. I'm on this article for a company called eWrestlingNews.com. And this article is showing how Kenny Omega got mad that once they announced AEW Fight for the Fallen, the WWE on the same goddamn day decided that they were going to show and live stream Evolve's 10th anniversary show. Which is crazy because we all know the Evolve fan base is pretty much the AEW fan base. They both like that style of wrestling. They both like that indie feel to their shows. They're the same crowd. And WWE was like, okay, you want to start fucking taking shots at us? Well, we're going to take shots at you. You want to put on Fight for the Fallen? Well, we're putting on Evolve's 10th anniversary. And it's going to have some crazy fucking matches. And it did. And it was good. But so was AEW Fight for the Fallen. Anyways, getting to Omega's tweet, this is what he said. After learning that WWE said, fuck it, we're going to put on our show the same time we're putting on your show. He goes on to say, if lining your pockets with blood money is okay, then what's wrong with trying to undermine a charity show for victims of gun violence? I hear that healthy competition is supposed to be a good thing, and yet I can't help but feel like I'm going to be sick. And I quote. That was Kenny Omega. And that was Kenny Omega talking about the fact that WWE is taking incredible amounts of money, godly amounts of money, to go put on shows in Saudi Arabia. And the reason why this is controversial, quick history lesson, is because Saudi Arabia has a history of being unfair with certain kinds of people. LGBTQ people, they treat them horribly over there, or so people say. I've never visited the place. They treat women as inferior people, is what I hear. I've never been over there. But they have a bad rap. And WWE is going over there, and they're putting on shows, and it's pissing a lot of people off. And it pissed off a lot of WWE's workers, because there were certain workers that didn't want to go because of those reasons, because they feel that Saudi Arabia needs to change before they start making more money off of entertainment. And here's what I got to say about that. Kenny Omega, as badass as he is, I get the feeling he's a little bit more softish when it comes to the wrestling business. He's all for making wrestling fun and cute, and we do it not for the money, but for the love of the sport, and it's an art form, and this and that, and that's all badass. I mean, he is one of the best in the world. It's working for him. But hey, this is professional wrestling. You're telling me if Tony Khan got paid what the WWE got paid to go over there, which we don't have exact numbers, but you have people like Undertaker, you have people like Chris Jericho talking about it, how it was some of the biggest paychecks of their lives. You're telling me Tony Khan's going to say no? And hell, who knows, right? He might say no. But by saying no, you stop yourself from making a change. WWE is, in my opinion, going over there for the money, but also going over there to try to make a change. Since the early 90s when I was a child, WWE has tried to make a change in society. They've always done that. Sometimes that change gets lost amongst the crazy-ass storylines in the company or amongst, these crazy headlines of shit that they're doing. But they've always tried to have an impact on society. And in my opinion, WWE is going to Saudi Arabia, and they are talking to these guys about, how about we have women wrestle? How about women wear the wrestling attire they want? Slowly but surely, they're trying to facilitate change. However, you have to start somewhere. And when you're the first one to go try to do it, you're going to get shit on. And Kenny Omega, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Welcome to the wrestling business. You should know this better than anybody. You're going to blame WWE for going over there and taking the money just because you're mad that they're putting on a show at the same time as your show? You wanted to play with the big dogs. This isn't independent wrestling anymore. This is what happens when you go up against a corporate conglomerate like the WWE. And at the end of the day, it's WWE doing some WWE shit and targeting the competition, which we can't blame them because the AEW crew decided to start throwing jabs. And there's been a lot of talk, like who started shit talking first. I'm sorry, when Cody Rhodes goes out there and starts sledgehammering Triple H's throne, and the Young Bucks are making fun of the WWE on their YouTube channel, Vince McMahon and the rest of the WWE isn't going to take it lightly. Yeah. Crazy times. Let's do all of that, make fun of the WWE, talk about how we're going to take them over and how WWE creative sucks, and expect WWE to take it lying down like they always have. Come on. We all know WWE is a ruthless competitor, and to expect anything less is stupid. Welcome to the fight, Kenny. You want a revolution? Get ready to try. And I will repeat, try to get through the McMahon family and the McMahon family empire. WCW couldn't do it. ECW couldn't do it. NWA, AWA, the list goes on and on. Will AEW be able to do it? We'll see. Me, I'm entertained. I am thoroughly entertained by all this competitive fucking talk. I'm thoroughly entertained by all these competitive matches. WWE has stepped up their game. New Japan is doing crazy shit still, even though they lost half the roster that mattered. AEW's a thing, selling out everywhere they go in some beautiful arenas. God, it's wonderful. Smoke a joint, ladies and gentlemen. Bust out a joint, a blunt, your pipe, your bong, fucking some beer, like I have here right now that I'm drinking. And just watch all this wrestling. Enjoy it, because it only comes once in a while. Eventually, I get the feeling, like I said, the wrestling business is a circle. Eventually, all this shit will die down. So let's appreciate it. Anywho, moving on. Sting versus Undertaker tease. That's our last topic here on Have Fun on the Indies for professional wrestling. The Sting versus Undertaker tease. I don't know, man. I mean, what much can be said? They're calling it a dream match. A lot of people are saying it could be a dream match. Am I crazy, or is this more of a dream build-up to a match than an actual dream match? I feel like the dream part is the part where these guys do crazy paranormal shit in the build-up to the match. If it even happens. I mean, people are already having flashbacks to Taker versus Goldberg at Super Showdown. Which, you can't blame those people. I'm sure this match won't have one of the workers KO'd before half the match is even completed, so the quality might be a lot better. But if this match isn't some legendary event, or it doesn't do what fucking Omega Okada did for people, don't act all shocked and surprised. Because while these guys are by far some of the best this business has ever seen, their prime has long passed them. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy them. Doesn't mean we can't watch and appreciate all the years they gave us. But just like last time, I hope people don't come out of the woodwork talking shit on these legends just because they aren't doing shit you see in Japan. If you really did expect guys who still have been in the business this long, if you expect guys who have been in this business this long to still be able to move like they used to, look like they used to, and perform like they used to, then you're a fucking moron. Come on, Marks. Let's use a little bit of common sense. That way, if we use common sense, when people look like idiots, they don't have to blame the wrestlers. They can blame themselves. These legend matches are there for not only the nostalgia factor, but for a showcase, as a treat. So let's not go shitting ourselves every time one of our favorite wrestlers from our childhood past gets brought back and he doesn't do what he did 20 or more years ago. Do we understand this? This match, if it does happen, is going to be awesome. I'm sure the build-up is going to be awesome. And the match is going to be entertaining, but it's not going to be your fucking 5-star match. And there is nothing wrong with that, because they all can't be 5-star matches. Sometimes we have to just sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and appreciate some of these guys that are past their prime, that are soon going to leave the wrestling business forever. It is what it is. So now, that was the last topic on the professional wrestling side. Let's see if I missed anything. We're going straight to the dirt sheets. I'm going to go to pwinsider.com first. Let's see what they got here. So, wow, Savio Vega is apparently in MLW. I watch MLW here and there. I mostly watch it because of Loki. So that's interesting. I didn't know Savio Vega was still doing the damn thing. My only memory of Savio Vega, one of my most clear memories, was I was wrestling for a company called Fog City Wrestling in San Francisco. Savio Vega was there, and he was having a match with my trainer, I think, Vinny Massaro. My trainer and somebody else, some sort of tag team match. And I remember he took off this gold watch, which for some reason I thought would be fake. Don't ask me why, okay? I didn't think it was a very expensive watch until he gave it to me. The fucking thing almost snapped my wrist. He looks me in the eye, points his finger, and says, "Don't you fucking dare lose this. It's worth a lot of money." And walks away. As my trainer says, "Did you hear him?" And that was that. That was my Savio Vega story. Let's see here. Harley Race still hospitalized. They have announced a fundraiser. He's way up there in age. Will Ospreay. Here's some news on Will Ospreay, because I know he was injured. People were saying, is he going to be able to continue to have all these matches? Because New Japan has these crazy fucking tournaments. And they're saying that he will be able to wrestle. He suffered a stinger, so it wasn't anything crazy. AAA returning to pay-per-view, going head-to-head with WWE. I mean, who isn't going head-to-head with WWE, right? This is Mike Johnson. Oh, well, here we go. It says, when Mexico's Lucha Libre AAA debuts in Madison Square Garden on Sunday, September 15th, and returns to Los Angeles at the Forum on Sunday, October 13th, each of those events will be presented live on pay-per-view via all major pay-per-view providers. Well, damn. Oh, but look at this. We are told that the events will be presented on secondary pay-per-view channels, as they will run opposite the September 15th WWE Clash of the Champions pay-per-view and a planned October 13th WWE pay-per-view event as well. God damn. WWE has a date in Anaheim, California on October 13th currently. AAA will now be in a position where the majority of promotion for those events will go to WWE, since they will be on a higher tier pay-per-view channel. And that's fucked up, because AAA has done a lot for this industry with their fucking crazy high-flying style. And it's been a while. They've been coming to the United States for a few years now. They're trying to get back on pay-per-view, and they're going up against WWE. That's all bad. They don't have the drawing power of an AEW or NJPW. At least I don't think. At least not on pay-per-view. Jeff Hardy gets arrested. Who cares? I mean, why talk shit about that? Public intoxication. I've been publicly intoxicated. Everybody grow the fuck up. It's not that big of a deal. Get over it. Let's see here. I think that's it for the pro wrestling talk. There's no I'm Gonna Snap Pro Wrestling edition, because we're saving that for GCW's Backyard Show at the next podcast. So, I'm leaving you with a match or an event to watch, which is WrestleMania 10, March 20th, 1994, from Madison Square Garden. Get that fucking VHS and put it into your VCR, right? And watch fucking a tape from 1994. I'm sure you guys can find it on the internet somewhere, on the network. One of the best WrestleManias, in my opinion. I watched it so many goddamn times. It's ridiculous. Watch and enjoy. Because now, we're moving on to the game of punch face that we like to call boxing. And the first article here, it's pretty damn interesting, because I went to boxingscene.com and I saw an article a few weeks back that said, Pacquiao Thurman, no VADA testing in place for July 20th pay-per-view event. So Here we go with more drug testing talk. First off, let's all stop acting like this shit isn't common in boxing and in a lot of combat sports. There have been main event fights in sold out arenas where the stakes are high, where drug testing wasn't even monitored or even done. Texas, we're all looking at you. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., we are all looking at you. At some point, it seems like boxing is like the NFL, where failing a drug test is like not knowing how to eat. I don't know. You get told when your tests are, and if it's random, they are so rudimentary that they are nowhere near able to catch the advanced PEDs used in today's modern sports. I don't know how this PED problem will ever be fixed. Should Pacquiao Thurman have drug testing? Absolutely. Should they have used VADA or USADA? In my opinion, absolutely. There has to be a better system in place for these sports. The whole thing is shady. Do you guys remember Pacquiao Mayweather situation with drug testing? Two of the biggest draws the sport of boxing has ever seen, where they both came out looking shady in that situation. Except Mayweather's shadiness was covered up way more and discussed way less, it seems. If you remember, when the fight was already close to being made and all they had left were a few loose strings to tie up, Mayweather brings up drug testing, that he wants Olympic-style drug testing. Manny Pacquiao says no, that he wants the testing they always have, which I'm assuming is the athletic commission testing. So everyone ends up jumping on Manny, that he's a drug sheet. Look at his body when he fought Eric Morales, when he fought Barrera, when he fought De La Hoya and Ricky Hatton. With no one even mentioning if any of his opponents were juicing, aka Juan Manuel Marquez. God, Juan Manuel Marquez is one of my favorite boxers of all time, but let's face facts here. That Mexican meat was fucking some ultra Mexican meat. He was huge for some of those fights. But that's beyond the point. So everyone jumps on Manny. Then it comes out after the fight that Mayweather violated anti-doping rules before the Manny fight. Before the Manny fight. Think about that. The man calling for stricter testing is violating testing that's already there, the most simple testing. And this is what he did. He used an IV, which under USADA and WADA is illegal because it is often used to dilute or mask PD usage. And the weird part, he was using the IV at his house. Not in a doctor's office, not in a sanctioned medical facility. At his freaking house. So things get even weirder. Once he gets caught doing this, without approval from anybody, out of the blue, USADA or the Athletic Commission, I can't remember which, gives him a therapeutic use exemption. So he gets a therapeutic use exemption after he gets caught cheating. What that therapeutic use exemption does is it allows him to use an IV. The problem being, he had to ask permission first, not get caught, then ask permission. Now, it is the craziest shit. And that's just the gist of it, without going into detail. Someone take the goddamn reins and try to do what mixed martial arts is doing and have a standard of drug testing be the same for everyone, so that the athletes don't come out looking like shit and get called cheaters everywhere they go. This whole thing where they either have shitty drug testing and keep it at that, or have strict drug testing and stop letting people off the hook just because they make you a lot of fucking money. That's just my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. So, Pacquiao Thurman is going to have no VADA testing. It is what it is. I'm hoping that all this drug testing stuff starts getting better throughout the years, because a lot of times it's fucked a lot of fighters over. But right now, we're in the fucking Wild West of it. It is what it is. So moving on. Moving on to Tyson Fury. Let's see here. So I read an article that Tyson Fury might fight in September or October at Madison Square Garden in New York. I mean, you can't say he doesn't deserve it. He goes from becoming the lineal heavyweight champion after dethroning Vladimir Klitschko. A man who was not only strong enough physically to hold all the important heavyweight championships, but had the mental acuity, had the mental fortitude, had the mental discipline, was able to put up with all the promotion that comes with boxing, the ravages of war in his country, health problems with his wife, and still keep the championship for almost 12 years. That's who Tyson Fury beat. Tyson Fury took all of Klitschko's experiences, which Klitschko would use as inspiration in the ring, and he matched Klitschko in every one of those things. And he succeeded. So even though he had some personal problems and was away for a while, he's back. He's back, and if the man wants to fight in the fight capital of the world, the fabulous Las Vegas, for his debut in the United States, then he should. And he did. And now, if the man wants to fight in the world-famous Madison Square Garden for his fight, then he should. And he will. People are saying Fury needs to amp up the level of competition, which is completely understandable. If Tyson Fury wants to revel at the top of the cards and headline events and be considered elite in boxing, then he is eventually going to have to get better competition. I understand that. But for me personally, I don't have a problem with him having tune-up fights and fights that highlight him, fights that highlight his skills. Boxing is how he makes money. It's how he provides for his family. Let him play his cards right. Hell, he was in there with Deontay Wilder not so long ago. As good as Fury is, he's still a man. Wear and tear is a thing. Let him preserve his body and slowly amp up the competition. Let his body heal and let the man work. Let the man do his thing. This is something that the American boxing promoters can learn from. Sometimes they put these American fighters against cans over and over and over again. They do it in Europe too. Tyson Fury does it too, except Tyson Fury sprinkles in there some real competition. And it's the way it should be done. You go from fighting someone like Deontay Wilder, he's not going to go in there and for his next fight Anthony Joshua or Andy Ruiz. You wait a little bit. You stay active, but you stay safe up until the next big fight. That's just my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I love watching Tyson Fury. One of my favorites. Anywho, going from Tyson Fury to the biggest draw in boxing, arguably, and that's Canelo Alvarez. And there were rumors that Canelo Alvarez was going to fight Sergey Kovalev in September, but that's not going to happen. If I heard correctly, I think Sergey Kovalev is going to be fighting Anthony Yarde. Let me see if that's right. I don't want to just start spouting. Yeah, he is. So the Canelo fight, they're saying, might still happen, but it might take a while. Anthony Yarde is kind of a journeyman. I've seen him fight a couple times. He's a fucking big boy. And Sergey Kovalev is taking a risk, in my opinion. But he should win this fight, which in turn should set up a big-time fight feel event against Canelo. Because no matter what people say about Kovalev, some people say his time has passed. Some people have been riding his ass ever since the Andre Ward fights. But Kovalev versus Canelo is super interesting to me. Kovalev is getting right into the thick of things, in my opinion. And if this is his last final run, I'm glad he's trying to make it a good one. Kovalev is coming off a win to Eleider Alvarez, which is a win that didn't really catapult him much since that was a rematch. A rematch because he got TKO'd against Alvarez in their first fight. Before that, he had a couple of wins, and before that, he had those big-time fights with Andre. which only a few people with attention spans appreciated. Those were good fights. That Andre Ward fight was really good. It's just people don't have the patience for that stuff anymore. People want people to bang, I suppose, Whatever, though. So for Kovalev to jump right in there and start working is motivating. He comes right off of those losses to Andre Ward, a loss to Alvarez, and he's right back in here. He's jumping in there with the Sharks, and I say Sharks, not Shark. Plural, ladies and gentlemen. And I say Sharks because before he even begins more negotiations with Canelo to fight at the end of the year, he's first fighting in September, as I said, against Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde is a prospect. So people are expecting Kovalev to win, which does seem likely. However, let's not forget this is boxing, and upsets happen all the time. Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, we all forget that already? I've watched Yarde fight. Yarde, whatever. He is a boxer that is being built up at this moment. But without a doubt, he's dangerous. Can Kovalev TKO or KO him? Maybe. But I hope people aren't going in there thinking this isn't a dangerous fight for Kovalev and his career. Yarde hasn't fought elite fighters as of yet, but he's been active. Active as fuck. So, here, you want to know how active he is? Maybe I'm just talking shit. Let's take a look at his fucking record. He's already fought twice in 2019. He fought 3 times in 2018. He fought 5 times in 2017. He fought 5 times in 2016. This guy is active as fuck. Muscle memory is all there for this man. Needless to say, I'll be tuning into this fight, and I'll be wishing Kovalev good luck. Yarde, too. He's super entertaining to watch in those European cards. I'll be paying to watch this fight. I'll be watching this fight, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping Kovalev shows signs of what he can do, and then we get that Canelo fight at the end of the year. Canelo's killing it. Canelo's winning awards. Canelo's doing whatever the fuck he wants. DAZN's trying to get him to fight people. He's like, fuck you, I fight who I want. He's the king of boxing right now. He is definitely the king of boxing right now. Golden Boy is so lucky they have this guy. Anyways, we're going to go to the dirt sheets real quick. Go to boxingnews24.com. Oh my God, and here's the first article we see. By Aragon Garcia. And it says, Canelo Alvarez won't fight in September. Wants best opponent for fans. Well, there goes Mexican Independence Day. That tradition where every fucking year Canelo would fight on that date. Or on that weekend. And apparently it's not happening. Here, let's read a little bit of it. Because I'm just seeing the news right now as well. Saul Canelo Alvarez and Golden Boy Promotions have made the decision to postpone the Mexican superstar's previously scheduled September 14th fight date on DAZN so that they can find the best possible opponent for his next match. The fuck does that even mean? So they can find the best opponent for his next match? There's a fucking slew of people out there. What the fuck? I understand Sergey Kovalev is now off the table, but if Sergey Kovalev is out there fighting Anthony Yarde, I don't know, have Canelo beat on Billy Joe Saunders. Make that fight happen. This guy wrote down some names for options for Canelo. Let's see what Aaron Garcia wrote down. Well, Billy Joe Saunders, Sergey Derevchenko, maybe Callum Smith. That's a safe one, and it's also a bit competitive. Demetrius Andrade. Yeah, he could fight some of these guys, but I understand he's the champion. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He has fought everybody. He's good. He has beaten Triple G. And in my opinion, Triple G beat him too, but he's good. He's improved a lot. Canelo killing it. All right, let's go down the list. Khan reacts to Pacquiao's denial of a signed fight. I heard about this. So Amir Khan was saying that the fight is signed and he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao, which is a fight that's been talked about on and off for a few years. Khan used to be a very close sparring partner with Pacquiao. we'll see what happens. Pacquiao saying he didn't sign anything. Khan is saying they did sign something. Let's see what the latest is here. So here's Pete Axline has a quote from Khan. Here's what it says. If it's not done, I'm the one that's going to be looking stupid. Super Boxing League say they have signatures, says Khan to the Irish Mirror. I am going to be fighting regardless in Riyadh on November 8th. Hopefully it's going to be true that it'll be Manny Pacquiao. Fingers crossed it is Manny Pacquiao, and we wish him all the best in the Keith Thurman fight, and hopefully there will be an announcement from Manny, said Khan. So, quite frankly, it's up in the air. It's all talk. It's almost like they're warming up everybody for the potential of this fight. And who knows if it's going to happen, because we don't know how Pacquiao Thurman is going to play out, seeing as how Thurman is a fucking beast. And Pacquiao, while still the man, is aging, has more responsibilities than he did in the past. He's fucking has some sort of spot in Congress over in the Philippines. He's a very busy person. Who knows how much time he's dedicating to training now. We'll see what happens. Here's another article. Abel Sanchez tells Andy Ruiz Jr. stop being a superstar. How fucking trippy. Abel Sanchez and Triple G fallout was just so fucked up. Especially with the way Sanchez just went off and talked all kinds of shit. And who knows what went on behind the scenes. But man, you could tell that guy was hurt. And I completely understand. Oh, look at this. I talked about Dillian White on the last podcast. And Eddie Hearn says that the Dillian White versus Oscar Rivas fight has sold over 12,000 tickets already. So the promoter for this fight is denying the rumors about low ticket sales. He's expecting 14,000 people there at the O2 Arena in London. The people in London know who Dillian White is. I will never understand what more these people want. You want knockouts? He gave you knockouts. You want drama? He gives you drama. You want good promos on the microphone? He gives you good promos on the microphone. Here, let's get a quote from Eddie Hearn here. We've sold 12,000 tickets, said Hearn to IFL TV in addressing the rumors of poor ticket sales for the White versus Rivas card. We'll have somewhere from 12,500 to 14,000 people in the O2 on Saturday night for White Rivas. That's a lot of people. If I was struggling to sell tickets for White Rivas, do you think I would tell Bob Arum? We've sold 12,000 tickets. You'll see on Saturday night. We'll have half of the upper tier open. I think it's an unbelievable card. I think the problem we have is not enough people know about Oscar Rivas. That probably cost us a couple of thousand tickets. Maybe he's right. I'm hoping Dillian White starts blowing the fuck up because I enjoy watching him fight a lot. He's just not getting the opportunities that everybody thinks he deserves, or at least I think he deserves. Gervonta Davis versus Richard Nunez has been announced. Little Mike Tyson, Gervonta Davis. Let's go down the list. That's about it for the boxing, folks. We're done from the boxing. No more punch face talk. But now, we go straight into mixed martial arts. And we love mixed martial arts here on Have Fun on the Indies. You get the wrestling, the Muay Thai, the boxing. You get it all in one fight. What's not to love about that? But this week's MMA portion of the show is going to start off pretty intense because I'm going to snap. This is the I'm going to snap MMA edition. And this one has to do with an article I saw on MMA Junkie that was covered by Steven Morocco. And the title of this article was King of the Cage promoter Draco Rodriguez's manager clash over UFC block. So here's the gist of it so I can summarize it before I start giving my opinion on this. Terry Trebilcock is the president of a company called King of the Cage. And as the president of a company called King of the Cage, he hired a fighter named Draco Rodriguez. Now, Draco Rodriguez got a call from the UFC, and the UFC said Marlon Vera needs a fight. His opponent pulled out. Can you fight him on short notice? Now, for anybody that knows, if you're an aspiring fighter, that's probably the dream call, is to get called up to the UFC. However, the president of King of the Cage, Terry, said, you ain't going anywhere. You have 4 fights remaining on your contract, so you're staying here. So pretty much the article has Brian Butler, which is Draco Rodriguez's manager, talking about what happened, talking about some of the conversations that went on. I suggest you read the article. It's on MMA Junkie. It was posted a few weeks back on July 4th. So look it up and read into it. It's very interesting. So now we get to it. Because this, I'm going to snap, is a double-edged sword. Because for one, Draco was under contract to King of the Cage. He had more fights left on that contract, and it's King of the Cage's right to not let him out of it. And on the other side, you have Terry and King of the Cage looking like a bunch of douchebags. So who's right? The guy with the contract, which in the United States, you sign a contract, it's binding, or the fighter who's trying to accomplish his dream and has done a lot for that company? And I'm trying to be fair here, but I'm sorry. But I can't help but take sides on this one. There's no fence walking for me on this one. It's pissing me off. I'm right off the fucking fence, and I'm on Draco's side. What the fuck is up with all these goddamn promoters? It's not bad enough that you were paying him $750 to show and $750 to win? You greedy fuck. Even though he was a draw. Even though he packed the venues. I get it. All Terry is doing is thinking of survival. I understand. But fucking King of the Cage isn't going to go out of business because Draco Rodriguez might have a few fights in the UFC. We're not even sure how many fights he was going to have. Or if he was even going to win against Vera. And say he did win, and the UFC signs him for a few more fights. If he ever ends up leaving the UFC for whatever reason, King of the Cage can pick him up again and have him draw even bigger crowds. Because his name was in the UFC once upon a time. To keep a man from reaching his dreams because you're going to lose a few ticket sales is disgusting to me. The fact that the promoter himself can't relate to the fucking fighter and realize that they're both in the MMA trenches, that they're both trying to make it and accomplish bigger things. Instead of relating to the fighter and his sacrifices and his pains and being happy that he can be an example that you can make it in life, you're fucking pissed because for some reason you think him leaving is going to affect King of the Cage, who in your fucking mind is one day going to compete with the UFC. Or at least that's what he's fucking acting like. That's what King of the Cage and Terry are acting like. But newsflash, King of the Cage is never going to be as big as the UFC, or Bellator, or Ryzen, and sure as hell not as big as ONE FC. King of the Cage is a feeder league, and a very successful one, a good one. It's just the way it is. And then you read the article, and it doesn't fail to keep on slapping you in the face. The nerve of Mr. President Terry, a fucking King of the Cage. The nerve of fucking King of the Cage to ask for 50 grand to let Draco out of his contract. What the fuck? How the hell is he going to pay you 50 grand, huh? From the 1K you give him for putting his life on the line in the cage? Huh? Is that how he's going to pay you? Is he not going to eat for the next few months so he can give you 50 grand to achieve his dreams? What the fuck is wrong with Terry and his organization? It's funny how promoters take advantage and use these fighters up like packs of cigarettes, but then get angry when said fighter is on his way to becoming successful. King of the Cage, with all the history you carry, with all you have done for MMA, for all the youth you continue to develop to this day, which is appreciated, but on this one, you can straight up go fuck yourself. All of a sudden, nobody can get out of their contract. All of a sudden, these kids who signed with you because you have a reputation for allowing them to step up to the big leagues if the opportunity comes, you sign them and then you strap them right in, right? You couldn't come off as being a more scummy human being, business or not. Get it together, Terry. Get it together, King of the Cage. What the fuck are you doing? I'm gonna snap. MMA edition. That was it. It's fucking unbelievable. Fighters need to start taking together. Because it's disgusting to watch some of this shit. But before I go on, I'm gonna snap part 2 because I'm still thinking about it. Or we're gonna move on to someone who should probably be fucking snapping. To someone who probably snaps every day. And that's Chris Cyborg. And why should she be snapping? Because her and the UFC have such a tumultuous relationship. The UFC doesn't like her. It seems like she's hard to negotiate with. And now her and UFC President Dana White are in dispute once again over her Amanda Nunes rematch. For a quick little summary, Dana White says that Cyborg doesn't want the rematch. And Cyborg says, what the hell are you talking about? When have you known me to back down from anything? So here's a little bit of an audio clip of Dana White saying that Cyborg doesn't want the rematch and of Cyborg responding. It's quick. It's like 10 seconds.
And then what she really wants is a rematch with Cyborg. And, Cyborg, I said that the other night, Cyborg goes crazy and whatever. We offered her that fight and Cyborg turned it down,
This is number one bullshit. UFC never gonna give him the rematch if you don't sign new deal. This is number one bullshit.
Okay, so there you have it. Dana White says we offered Cyborg the rematch, and Cyborg says this is number one bullshit. This is such a tough one. UFC is trying to protect themselves and their championship by trying to log down Cyborg to more fights in the UFC in case she beats Nunes. So the only way Cyborg gets this rematch is if she signs a contract extension for more fights. But Cyborg is saying, look, you guys obviously don't like me. I'm starting to be miserable here. After this fight, win or lose, I want to go test myself in other places. Maybe ONE FC. Maybe Ryzen. But the UFC doesn't want that. The UFC doesn't want Cyborg maybe beating Amanda, which is a big, big possibility, and then taking off with her belt. I understand. I don't know if Cyborg is hard to work with or what, but Cyborg has had a horrible relationship with the UFC since before she even got there. Sometimes I feel the UFC is too hard on her. She is definitely a draw. She is definitely exciting to watch. And not only is she exciting, but she wins. 90% of the time, she fucking wins. She wins most of her fights. She has a fucking presence about her. There's a reason why they call her Cyborg. She looks like she's going to get a body on her record one day. In my opinion, they should let Cyborg fight Amanda. Have her sign the contract for that fight, and that's it. If she wins, she wins. If she loses, she loses. But at the end of the day, let her make a living wherever the hell she wants to. Cyborg leaving to a different company isn't going to kill the UFC. It's not going to make them look bad. It makes them look bad not wanting to give her that fight, that rematch, and it makes them look bad not letting her out of the contract. Whether Cyborg goes to UFC, ONE, Bellator, hell, take her to Ryzen and see if someone can convince her to fight her training partner and friend, Gabby Garcia. Tell me that wouldn't be money. I highly doubt that the UFC ends up losing anything if she wins the belt and then departs. As badass as the UFC is, fans aren't caring too much about championships. The UFC did this to themselves. all the interim championships and all the weird stripping of championships and then making other championships and everyone being a champion has taken a lot of value out of the belts. I see the UFC losing very little if Cyborg leaves. Cyborg has been in the game from the beginning and is a legend in women's MMA. Right up there with Ronda Rousey. Right up there with Ronda Rousey. So let's show a little bit of appreciation for the attention she brought to the sport. Let's show a little bit of appreciation for the fucking sacrifices that she made for this sport. Let's show a little bit of appreciation when she's fucking trying to get women's MMA on the map and has to deal with all the bullshit of people telling her that girls aren't good fighters or that she's not pretty enough to be an MMA fighter. We want to push Gina Carano because she's better looking. How about we give her a little bit of credit for mentally getting through all that bullshit? But maybe that's too much to ask, no? Maybe that's too much to ask these days. I wish Chris Cyborg nothing but the best. No matter where Chris Cyborg goes, I'm watching. No matter what she fights in, whether it be boxing, fucking MMA, another kickboxing fight with some giant who's a multiple-time champion. Any of those things, I'm watching. And here's a pretty messed up one, a little weird one. UFC continuing with their releases. I mean, John Lineker was released from the UFC. This one was fucking weird. Kind of out of the blue. Lineker is by no means a boring fighter. He brings it and is exciting. So to me, it was more shocking to see the UFC get rid of him than it was to see them get rid of Elias Theodorou. Things got a little weird recently when he wrote on Twitter. He wrote some stuff on Twitter. Let's see if I can track that down. Yeah, see, he got a little weird here. John Lineker wrote on Twitter, and I don't know what this is about. And I quote, "My last opponent fought 4 times in a year. He already has another fight. Sean likes him. I have fought only 4 times since 2016. I need to fight. If you don't like me or my style, just let me go." It looks like he's having problems with the bookers. Not Dana White, but with the matchmakers. Because he's talking about Sean Shelby playing favorites when he says Sean likes him. Or likes his opponent. I don't know. The only thing that a lot of people have brought up and that could have been a detriment to part of his UFC career is that he has pulled out and has missed weight for a few of his fights. I would have to look into it, but I won't right now because of my drunkenness. But I wonder if that is a legitimate excuse. I say that because he's had 16 fucking fights in the UFC. Out of 16, I'd really like to know how many he missed weight for or pulled out of. 16 fights since 2012. Let's take a look at his record and see how active he was throughout his years in the UFC. That's a good one, right? Let's check it out real quick. John Lineker. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Fucking 16 fights is insane, but let's see. He's fought once in 2019. He fought once in 2018. He fought once in 2017. So the last 3 years have been super slow for him. But before that, he wasn't doing too shabby. Fought 4 times in 2016, all in the UFC. Then fought twice in 2015, all in the UFC. Fought twice in 2014, all in the UFC. Dear Lord, this guy... I'm sorry, this guy should not have gotten fired. Did he miss a few fucking weight cuts? Maybe. Did he pull out of fights due to injury? Maybe. But hey, real quick, injury? I don't know. Maybe 16 fights in the biggest, toughest organization in the world when it comes to fighting might have something to do with it. You ever think the man might need some fucking break? Might need a break? Might need to heal up a little bit? After going up against all these fucking killers from John Dodson, TJ Dillashaw, Michael McDonald, Francisco Rivera, Ian McCall, fucking Corey Sandhagen, Marlon Vera. Yeah, I think they should have gave that guy a little bit of a break. Anyways, wherever he ends up, I'll probably end up watching. Guaranteed fact. As a matter of fact, let's see if there is any news on if he's going anywhere. Maybe not. I don't know. Well, right off the bat, I can't find anything. All I see is articles about his release from the UFC. I'm assuming he's going to One or Ryzen. I really don't think he's going to Bellator, but we'll see what happens. From here, let's see what Dana White had to say about this, because apparently I just found this other article on MMA Fighting by Guillermo Cruz. And here's Dana White's explanation, I guess. And I quote, "I think it was because he hasn't made weight a few times," White said. "And I just know that the matchmakers were super frustrated with him. The guy wasn't being professional." And John Lineker declined to comment on that. See, that's where it gets weird. It's like you wonder what happened behind the scenes. You can tell something happened behind the scenes. But we'll see what happens. Let's go to the dirt sheets. We'll go to MMA Fighting first. If I can fucking use my keyboard right and type in the address correctly. Alright, let's see here. I need a swig of this beer. Give me a second. By the way, speaking of beer, I always stick to beer because the last time I did a podcast, I was drinking beer. However, the day before, I was drinking something called Fireball. And I'm going to say it was fucking disgusting. Some cinnamony whiskey that I've never had, that I didn't even know existed. Worst hangover on the planet. No more Fireball for me. Love alcohol, but not Fireball. Alright, let's see here. You got Tatiana Suarez had an interview about her being called the female Khabib. She's very similar to him with that whole mauling style on the floor, ground and pound. Oh, here's a decent one. Dana White explains why he's not willing to make George St. Pierre versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Damon Martin. See some of the quotes on that. So here's some of the quotes here, and I quote. "Well, there's two things. First of all, who doesn't love George St. Pierre? George St. Pierre is the best ever as far as human beings. Great guy, love him. George St. Pierre and I had a deal. He was going to fight Michael Bisping at 185 pounds. And if he won, he would defend the title. He bailed on that. Didn't do it," White told TSN recently in Canada. "So you can't just come out and handpick fights that you want for titles." And that's nuts because that brings a whole different spin to the whole situation. Because if we go back through history a little bit, it seems like the UFC has always been frustrated with GSP because GSP tends to be difficult in negotiations and tends to usually get what he wants. I mean, if we remember that Johnny Hendricks fight where he won a decision that everybody says he lost, in my opinion, he won. But Dana White threw him so badly under the bus at that press conference. And I don't know if this is just them being pissed off at George St. Pierre or if George St. Pierre really did say that he was going to defend the 105-pound belt and never did. Dana White continues to say, "There's guys backed up that want to fight in that division. You can't come back out of retirement and handpick fights that you want when you didn't even keep your word with me on defending the 185-pound belt. Have I made that clear?" Damn, that one's rough. Dana White's pretty much saying George St. Pierre didn't keep his word. Who knows what happened? I'd love to see GSP versus Khabib. Even Ali Abdelaziz doesn't want to see that fight. I wonder what the deal is. All right, let's see here. More Dana White. And this one fucking sucks. Dana White rules out Conor McGregor fight against Jorge Masvidal. The fuck? That kind of sucks. That would have been a great fight. Let's see what it says here. He says, and I quote, "Masvidal's too big for Conor. Conor shouldn't have fought at 170. I hated that he did it," White said. "Not only did I hate that he did it once, I hated that he did it twice. He doesn't belong at that weight. There's plenty of fights for Masvidal in his weight division without Conor." White continued, "He's too big for Conor. Conor doesn't belong at 170. He's got the balls to fight at 170. but he doesn't belong there. Holy shit. Dana White straight up saying Conor at 170, Conor can't cut it at 170. Is what pretty much Dana White is saying. He's saying that because of the weight, it's not viable to have McGregor fight at 170. How fucking nuts is that? I mean, he might say he doesn't want McGregor to fight at 70, but as we've seen, McGregor does whatever the fuck he wants now. He pretty much has the UFC by the balls. He sets his own schedule. He doesn't even need the UFC to stay rich anymore. He's got his own whiskey company. I want to see him back. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of his antics, but I want to see him back. His fights were always exciting. Always exciting. Always at the edge of your seat because you either want him to lose really bad or you want him to win really bad. Oh, here's another one by Peter Carroll. Michael Page versus Richard Kiley set for Bellator Dublin. Damn, so Michael Venom Page is back after that KO loss to Douglas Lima. It's good to see him back because I know for a while there he would have a fight against a can and then he would take a long layoff and then come back again. There was a point where he even took a long layoff and did some boxing. So good for him for making such a quick return. And of course, you go down to the comment section, I don't know why, and you have the idiots coming out of the woodwork. Why do I do this to myself? Look at this idiot. Displaced Vol fan. Let's see what he says. Back to giving this guy tomato cans. Trying to build the hype back up like before by matching him up with no one. Sorry, Bellator, but after that highlight knockout, this guy is toast. Stop trying. He was exposed. Exposed? The fuck are you talking about? He lost a fight against one of the most dangerous fighters in all of Bellator. What do you want them to do, huh? Put him up against fucking Rory McDonald now? Idiot. Of course they have to build him back up. Of course they have to if they want to make money. If they want to make him a player again to where they can put him on a big show and draw some fans. So fucking stupid. Whatever. I'll be watching that fight. I watched his boxing fights too. They were entertaining. He's entertaining. I hated the whole Pokeball thing he did when he smashed Cyborg's fucking head in. But besides that, I like him. I like watching him. All right, let's see here. I think that's it for MMA. This isn't really MMA, but here's the last thing before we end the show. Jason Knight suffers rib injury out of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 7 against Leonard Garcia. Dear Lord, that fight would have been insane. My God, the blood and the cuts. Can you imagine if him and Lobov had the fight they have? Leonard Garcia is just as insane. Jason Knight is insane. Injured, so he won't be at BKFC 7. Uriah Faber made his return recently. I saw that knockout. Bellator announced his 16-man field for Featherweight Grand Prix. Interesting as fuck. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's it for Have Fun on the Indies. I think that's it for MMA talk, boxing talk, pro wrestling talk. Leave some comments. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud. Remember, at HaveFunOTI. That's at HaveFunOTI. You can catch all of our links there to our podcasts and everything else. I'm your host, Abe. Have fun on the Indies.